Hello everyone, welcome back to more AEW on TEW 2020. We are here the last week of October. It means our Halloween Havoc. But we, of course, first have to start off with Dark. Jonathan Gresham defeats Ricky Starks with a 630 splash. After this, continuing the tournament, Kip Sabian picks up his first win of the tournament, defeating Will Hobbs. Then, Britt Baker hosts an episode of The Waiting Room, with her guest being Antonio Banks, and the main question of this is, what is the role of the bankroll? And he says, well, I assume you mean why we've banded together. What the reason for this collection is. Brutality Inc. is around to prove that they're a bunch of tough fighters. VIPs think that they're better than everyone else. Princeton wants to protect Fergal Devitt. And the cult, of course, wants to protect Adam Cole. But, all those are certainly some reasons, but I just want to keep things simple. I look at Ricochet, I look at Gresham, I look at the Acclaimed, and I see people who deserve loads of merchandise around them. All of them are complete all-stars, regardless of what their current status is, regardless of how much the fans disrespect them. All of us are deserving of the big bucks, and I'm just here to help them reach that point. AEW wanted financial investment, and I gave it to them, and I'm going to keep it going, gonna get them even more money with my bankroll. So yeah, surprisingly, pretty straightforward episode of The Waiting Room. Nothing bad happens. Then continue on with the tournament, which I think I actually meant to rearrange the matches because I just did the tournament matches first, and then if all 5 are in this episode, by the way. Fred Yehi defeats Andrew Everett. Hams Katana defeats Kira Hogan. TH2 defeats the Motor City Machine Guns. Jumping right back into things. Dijak defeats El Hijo del Vikingo with the Dijection, but we had Homicide run in and attack Vikingo. So nearing the end of the match, Homicide and the LWO Homicide of the LWO, I misread that, comes in and attacks Vikingo, tossing him off the top rope, while the ref is distracted by Dijak grabbing a baseball bat. After the match, Vicky Guerrero begins taunting Vikingo about how he should have joined the LWO to truly make a rise to the top, but instead, his only chance to get anywhere in this company is to be a 1-6 in a ladder match. Homicide gets ready to hit Vikingo with a Gringo Killer, but Dijak spears Homicide before, and Vikingo probably just lands on his feet or something like that, rolls out of it, whatever. But and then Dijak hits his Dijection on Homicide, and he yells that Homicide has no right to interfere in his matches. There's a lot of feuds that I'm sort of having with Brutality Inc. They beat up Nat Murphy. They're beating up the LWO here. These aren't actual feuds, it's just Brutality Inc. are just a bunch of assholes. They're fighting anyone they can. They want things to go their way, and they're going to prove that, their word is law, essentially. After this, Hiromu Takahashi defeats Tai Chi. Now, interesting thing about this. So, Tai Chi, of course, brought him in as the IWGP US Champion. Same night as last Dynamite, Jeff Cobb actually beat Tai Chi in Ring of Honor. A Ring of Honor main event for the US Championship. So now, Jeff Cobb, currently of Team Taz, is now your champion. I was originally going to have Tai Chi show up, probably the show be like, wow, no one's worthy. And then Samoa Joe comes in, beats the shit out of him, beats him next week, the championship. But now Jeff Cobb is the champion. That's the way it goes with Alliance belts. But not a problem there. Best Friends then defeat Aussie Open. Then Shotzi Blackheart and Chris Statlander are seen backstage looking around for something. After a little bit, Shotzi speaks up. It's more like they're looking out for something, looking for someone. And Shotzi says, it's always good to know what's around the backstage area. Humans are weird. They'll do all sorts of weird things. You've had experience with being the elite, right? Well, that's one way to get over with humans. Keep popping up there and you'll be memorable for any number of reasons. Now, I haven't been seen on in a few weeks, true, but that's not to say I don't have more things to do. I have a plan for an upcoming Dark. Don't worry about it, but both of us are gonna bust out of Dark and get to Dynamite, so you just gotta follow my lead. So yeah, I really need to push these two more. Simple as that. Abaddon then defeats Awesome Kong. In our main event, Isaiah Cassidy defeats Rey Fenix. Part of the tournament. Afterwards, the Butcher and the Blade rush into the ring, and they easily take down Cassidy. The Bunny directs the two of them to continue taking down Cassidy, and telling them to especially aim for Cassidy's legs. Interrupted by the Godfather, who says, hey, please stop beating down my guy, and surprisingly, Booker and Blade agree to it. They agree to it, and then they hit the Godfather with their finisher. Instead of hitting that to Cassidy, Godfather's taken out. They've taken out Mark Quinn. So now Isaiah Cassidy, all alone, against the Butcher and the Blade, and the Bunny is also there too. And we'll move on to Halloween Havoc, special edition of Dynamite. Moving on to our special Halloween Havoc edition of Dynamite. I actually kind of screwed things up a little bit. We opened up with Pac defeating Brock Lesnar, 77 rated match. Both of them had 90 in their performance. Following that, Heyman was just really shocked by the win by Pac, and he blamed the referee, Tyler Klutz, aka Brad Maddox, for intentionally having Brock lose. Reason I didn't have those was because I was changing up some of the booking with the main event, just the match type, because our main event, pretty huge. Again, 77 rating. It's a bit disappointing that it was only 77. And I think the angle after that was like an 80, so not a problem there. After this, we see a backstage segment with Taz, Jeff Cobb, and Samoa Joe. Jeff Cobb is the new IWGP US Champion, and it shows the finish of the cage match between Tai Chi and Jeff Cobb in Ring of Honor last week before Taz begins to speak. He says, what did I tell you, Kurt? Team Taz has got championships win. Now, Jeff Cobb has taken the IWGP United States Championship, something that your boy Zack Sabre Jr. failed to do. But we ain't even done with titles yet. Oh no, I got one more up my sleeve. 20 years ago, I had the FTW Championship, and now I'm bringing it back with my new champion, Samoa Joe. Joe was going to win that US Championship, but he was gracious enough, I talked him out of it, to let the monster, Jeff Cobb, take it. So now your boys going to be against not even our champions at Full Gear when Team Taz kicks your ass. So yeah, Taz presenting the... Hold up. Sorry, just fixing my mic a little bit. Taz presenting the FTW Championship, which I've actually had set for a while, but haven't actually put it on anyone. Now, that champion is Joe. I was actually originally going to have Joe win... I think I mentioned this on Dark, but... I was originally going to have Joe win the IWGP US Championship. Jeff Cobb won instead. It still stays within the family, so we get the FTW Championship presented to Samoa Joe. After this, in our finale of the 2021 Women's Tag Team Tournament, Mayu and Riho defeat Jordan Grace and a kayfabe injured Julia Hart, when Mayu pins Julia with the Frog Splash. So, yeah, they wanted their Mayu with an 81, which is ridiculous. Because she's only got like 40-some pop at last I checked, which, good lord, Mayu. Yeah. Just amazing for Mayu to win that. And her performance was amazing, that's more what I was going for. After this, we cut to a Jake Roberts promo with Lance Archer and Matt Sydal in the background, and they're doing yoga. He says, you want to sick your beasts on us and take our title if we don't listen to you? I see how it is, Paul. You're scared of us. You're scared of the Murder Hawk monster crushing your flaunted tag team division into the dirt. But go ahead, Paul. I dare you to take the titles from us. We're keeping our open challenge, and we're not letting you take our belts. If you so much as lay a finger on these belts, Lance Archer is going to hit you with a blackout. You'd be wishing you were back in the days where the biggest pain you had was bankruptcy from ECW's death. Basically, Jake Roberts just saying, hey, last week, Paul Heyman said, you guys keep doing this open challenge that I have not approved of. We're taking your titles. Jake Roberts says, alright, bet. Wants Heyman to try. I've already seen Brock Lesnar seems to not be all too effective. He lost in his debut match, even though he did do very well for himself. He was kept strong. It was an open match. Pac just barely making it under the time limit, probably. I don't remember how long the match actually said it was. I'm imagining in my head it's somewhere around like 1945. But Yeah, Jake Roberts and the Vision not scared of Paul Heyman. After this, we get Adam Cole's in-ring debut, quote-unquote. He actually debuted on Elevation to just check to see if this team had any chemistry. It doesn't. But Adam Cole defeats the Young Bucks after a flying crossbody, which is a bit lackluster. We have to change some movesets around. Still, 92's Joey Janela. It says that he was a weak link. He's not all too far behind Adam Cole. Following the match, Adam Cole simply sits on the top rope as the Cult beat up both Young Bucks. The reason I said both was because I wasn't sure exactly which one would take the loss because I didn't set it. Devon then brings in a table, sets it up near the turnbuckle Cole is sitting on before the mini Dudleys set Matt on the table. Then Utami, Sheridan, and Raven Creed all pick Nick up and bring him up to Adam Cole, who locks him into a powerbomb. Cole powerbombs Nick Jackson onto Matt Jackson through the table, and then Cole, he kind of stays on his knees for a little bit, and he just stares at the Young Bucks. The small grin on his face as the medical officials rush out. They're trying to help the Bucks out. They're trying to make sure that their EVPs are fine, which they might not be. They have a zombie just powerbomb them into each other through a table. But right now, the Cult's just doing very well for themselves, and it seems as though Adam Cole so far has a little bit of revenge, but I don't think he's content with just that much. After this, we see Cody at the Nightmare Factory with the new Nightmare family, all training in the background. He says, Taz, you think that you can just get away with offering a fake world title to Joe? Look, I know that you and Joe have had your history, and I won't deny that, but this is just ridiculous. Sure, Joe's a fantastic in-ring worker, but he's been nothing but trouble for AEW, and trouble for me since he's arrived here. Your FTW Championship isn't sanctioned by AEW. I have it on my authority as an EVP to announce that and confirm that. But, sure, I'll play along. Unless you're a coward, you'll put that fake belt on the line in my match against Joe at Full Gear. And if you win, that title stays just as it is. And if I win the rights to that title, and it will never see the light of day again. Cody Rhodes really not happy with Joe being presented with this fake world title, but, you know, he's like, you know what, sure, whatever, that's fine, you can have this title, go ahead. After that, we go into our parlay. So, we return to the ring, you know, comes back from commercial, we see every member of the Inner Circle and the VIPs Club, they're all dressed nicely, they have their own tables, across the ring from each other, for both this one and the next one, because I have two parlay segments, I'm imagining that while it's mainly between Jericho and MJF, but, you know, the entire time you are still having Sammy talk, you have Ace Austin talk, you have Tenille, Deonna, AJ Mendez, Jake Hager doesn't say anything because he's Jake Hager, Chris Bay probably doesn't say anything because he's just the bodyguard, just an employee, North doesn't say anything, maybe Ethan Page would say some things, but whatever. So MJF, he begins to cut a promo on how he had a longer title run than Jericho, which means that he was better. But Jericho, eventually, after about 3-4 minutes of back and forth debate, the entire parlay takes 10 minutes, so I have it divided in 5 and 5 with the second segment, but it's whatever. And Jericho says, look, I don't know why you're so into this. I mean, why do I have to prove myself to you? You're a whelp that wasn't even alive when I was headlining national television. But, you know what? I'll forgive you for that. You're ambitious, and I like ambition. I mean, how else are you going to move ahead in life? How else are you going to be the champion, the demo god, unless you have some ambition? But here's the difference between you and me. Since I debuted, I've been the star of national promotions, and I've been a star for years. I've been rubbing elbows with legends of the business. Dean Malenko, Kurt Angle, Lance Storm, Mick Foley, hell, a million more. Those four I just said because they're employed by the company. Lance Storm backstage, well, all of them are backstage talents. Whatever. The biggest rub that you've had, MJF, is yourself. Good old masturbation joke. But I'll be generous. I'll show that I'm a generous person. I'll let you choose the stipulation of our Full Gear match under one condition. I've made friends with legends of the business, both in America and in Japan. As he says this, he points to the stage, the Tron switches, and music plays for the Rainmaker, Kazuchika Okada. Okada takes center stage, and he just looks at MJF before Jericho announces, next week, if you beat Kazuchika Okada, you can face me at Full Gear. Bit of a reversal of the real-life labors of Jericho, or Jericho's the one making the labor, and it's just one, but it's Okada. Okada just brought in on loan. I'll have to pay him again, bring him in on loan again. Hopefully New Japan doesn't say no. Otherwise I might just go and do a one-night talent trade, but whatever. So yeah, MJF versus Okada will be next week's main event. After that, cut commercial, come back, Kana beats Nyla Rose. The Kana lock. Kana makes defense number 7 with a 90 in-ring rating. I need to remove Vicky Guerrero from being Nyla's manager. Vicky is more focused on the Latino World Order. Nyla Rose, not going to be a part of that. But still, very good match. Following the match, Kana doesn't take too long from after the submission to get up, stare at the stage, and she calls out Riho and Mayu Iwatani. The two Joshis come to the ramp, and they stare back at Kana. She points at her title, says the Empress will never fall. Full Gear, triple threat between Kana, Mayu Iwatani, and Riho. What will Riho become? The first ever two-time women's champion. Will Mayu Iwatani continue her rise to the top? Will Kana continue to be the Empress? And will Kana even get pinned? Who's going to take the pin in this? It'll be interesting. After this, we just show a vignette hyping up Devitt versus Ibushi, just show the history between them. Now, how they've had that match back in 2014. That was the last time that they met in the ring. And in our main event... Really? Kota defeats Devitt with Phoenix Splash. Devitt with a 93, Kota with a 92. Lack of psychology. We get a 77 rating. I'm guessing that just because of our size, just because of our company, all that stuff, probably are limited on how high of a match rating we can get. 77 is still really good, but I mean, got a bonus for good psychology in an epic, good psychology in an epic, lack of psychology. TEW is going to be weird sometimes, but Kota defends his world title, 79 rating, and that whole thing with me adding elevation only mattered for one show. We increased our popularity in 34 regions. Very good. Pac defeating Brock Lesnar, bit of a surprise. Then we have our announcement of who wins the women's tag team tournament. Adam Cole makes his in-ring debut on actual television. Kana defeats Nyla Rose, and Kota Ibushi defeats Devitt, as well as announced that MJF will be taking on Kazuchika Okada in next week's Dynamite's main event. We are less than a month away from Full Gear, so I'm gonna hopefully have an actual go home instead of, I mean, it's 3 weeks. 3 weeks of Dynamite before we go on to Full Gear. So, see how episodes go from there.